President Trump holding a massive rally in Las Vegas yesterday, promising to restore common sense to our country.
Hundreds of thousands of people contributed that they wouldn't have except for the court case. And our poll numbers are higher now than they were before because the people are watching and they know a fake deal. People are saying to themselves, were we better off 4 years ago or are we better off now? And it wasn't even close. Now we have a lot of Democrats that are coming over because really we're the party of common sense. We're a party of common sense.
Meanwhile, a New York Times op-ed out with a list of what could happen should Trump win in November, including putting American manufacturing first, cutting government waste, and a crackdown on illegal immigration, something polls show Americans are increasingly worried about. Actually, we should point out that this is not an op-ed. This is in their news section. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Trump may throw her in jail if he wins, calling him, quote, nuts, telling the American people to take him at his word. But President Biden has been doing everything that Democrats are accusing Trump of doing, including opening the border, making America vulnerable, directing social media companies to censor information, using the DOJ to go after political opponents, and driving spending, which, of course, caused a 40-year high inflation. So that's the Biden agenda, and yet the New York Times, in their news section, not even in their op-ed, has this list of stuff, Liz Peek, that they claim Trump is going to do if he wins. Yeah. And by the way, should we completely lose are they losing the fact that there's, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claims that Trump is going to throw her in jail? Liz, that's exactly what they're doing to Trump right now. So,
absolutely.
I mean, is the New York Times not even noticing what they're writing in terms of everything they're writing about that they've already done to Trump?
Yeah, the left is great at projection. People say this over and over, but it really is true. This is the new line from the Democrats, and you've heard it from so many people now, Maria. He's going to weaponize the Justice Department. It's retribution. You see the word retribution over and over again. You know what? I'm ready for a little retribution. So much has gone on that no one has been held accountable for. This two-tier system of justice, I think even people on the sidelines politically, it's just what Trump was talking about, are so incensed about these trials that he has been put to, the indictments, and recently all these convictions on incredibly thin and bogus charges. So what I love, though, I want to go back to the New York Times thing. This common sense theme is really excellent. This is what Republicans should be running on. And by the way, we had a massive rightward shift in Europe over the weekend. EU elections there really went to the right in France and Germany. And you know what? It's all about common sense on immigration and on climate. And that's where Republicans should be standing tall.
Yeah, that's right, Liz. And you know what? In those European elections, that's because everyone's feeling what we're feeling in the United States because of this wide open border. This migration that Europe is feeling is a very similar situation to what we are seeing here in the U.S. And I think this whole, Trump is going to jail everybody, started with the FBI. Because remember, Liz, it was Andrew McCabe who said that on CNN. He said, people in the FBI are worried that they're going to put him in jail. Why? Because Andrew McCabe knows what they did. He knows what they did during the Russia collusion story, pursuing a story and pursuing this idea that Trump colluded with Russia when they had absolutely zero evidence. So, yeah, Andrew McCabe knows what the FBI did and knows that it does mean potential jail time.
Exactly. And by the way, it's not just that he knows what they did. He was part and parcel of the group that spied on the Trump campaign and did all these things to perpetuate the Russia hoax, which, from 2015 on, so 2017 on, they knew was completely bogus.
That's exactly right. And we know that because they had a meeting on it. We've got notes on it. And of course, at this point, it's been proven by at least 3 major investigations. Yeah. It's not working, though, Cheryl. A new CBS YouGov poll shows President Trump is beating President Biden in a head-to-head matchup. 50% of likely voters say that they'd cast their ballots for the former president. Trump's guilty verdict in New York also proving to have no impact on this race. Voters say that immigration and the border will have more influence over their vote. And, of course, Cheryl, that's what we're seeing in the numbers as well as the fundraising numbers. Trump was able to raise nearly $300 million in a week after that guilty verdict.
He raised $13 million in blue San Francisco, Maria. It's about messaging. It's about the economy. It's about how people are feeling about their wallets. And that is what this has all come down to. Were you better off under President Trump than you are now under President Biden? And it's a resounding no, I'm not better off. In fact, pivoting back to Nevada, to that rally, by the way, that Trump held in the soaring heat. Unbelievable, the crowds in 110-degree heat in Nevada, Maria. And if you look at the latest Fox News polling, basically Nevadans feel bad about their finances. 4 times as many say they are falling behind, 49%. As far as those getting ahead, just 13%, Maria.
Yep,
4 in 10 say they're just holding steady. So this is the message. This is the fundraising. This is the momentum. And if you're the New York Times or you're Team Biden, all you can do right now is play defense and say, well, he's a convicted felon. Well, AOC, it's going to be, we're all going to, fall apart if Trump's back in. That's all they have.
Liz wrote it all in her latest op-ed. Liz, the most important issue, as you write about, is inflation remaining on top of mind for voters, how President Biden cannot win with his own economy or jobs numbers. You asked the question in this piece. The president boasts incessantly and erroneously that he's created 15 million new jobs. How will he explain a downturn in hiring?
Yes.
Liz.
So, in fact, the jobs market is getting weaker. The recent jobs report out on Friday, I thought, was a really peculiar bunch of numbers that don't add up, Maria. If you talk to any businessman, hiring is slowing. And I don't know what Joe Biden's going to have to say about that.
And we'll talk more about that. I'm going to get Mark Tepper's take on that when we come right back.